Hi, welcome to the Discover Your Life Today YouTube channel. My name is Naveen Kaur. I am from discoveryourlifetoday.com. Today I'm going to be talking about how to make a fantastic presentation and get results. Absolutely, you can get results, and this is kind of what I've done as well. I've gone out today, I've worn a nice dress shirt. First video, you'll probably see me wearing a dress shirt and for the longest time. I've got myself a fresh haircut, as well I'm clean shaven. So I am trying to make a great presentation to you, the viewer, as well, on why you should continue to watch this video on how to make a great presentation and get results at work for sales and whatnot. You can definitely read a little bit more about this at discoveryourlifetoday.com/make a fantastic presentation. So as I get going into this, I would definitely recommend you go over to the website. You can follow along. That way you can read along and really understand what I'm trying to say here. What I'm also going to do is recommend that you grab a piece of paper and a pen, your Evernote, whatnot. Take some notes as I'm writing. Take some important points that you find will help you succeed as you learn how to make a fantastic presentation moving forward. We've had this happen to us probably many times. You know, your boss walks into your office and says, "Hey, look, we have a presentation we got to make to an important client. You got to get all the, the necessary research done, the PowerPoint put together. We got 2 days to get this done." And what's the first feeling that you start feeling is probably stress, like most people would too. It's really understanding how to deal with that stress that comes up and understanding that how you're going to have to work your schedule for the next 2 days so you can be successful on finishing this. You know, the whole idea is of your presentation is a couple different things that you want to present to your client so you can build trust. You can further educate them on different products and services that your company provides. You can help them understand what's in it for them, inspire them to make the purchase, and number 5, what you want them to do is really potentially send you a referral in the future. As a professional business person, your goal is not just to make the sale. Your goal here is to present to the customer's wants and needs. You must be understanding that it is something that you have to require, and so it's going to be a skill that you're going to have to require to understand. It's not just about selling. It's really about building relationships, right? Your client can be the buyer for the company. It could be the VP or even the CEO sometimes that you have to present to. You have to learn how to present to multiple different people that you may have to encounter during your sales career. No matter who you are presenting to, you must be prepared to present. It is vital for your success and your company's success in order to get new customers and business partners. There's 3 steps in preparing a fantastic presentation, and we're going to go through each one of those steps in detail as well on this video. So, if you need to pause and write some notes while we're going through this, absolutely go ahead. What my goal is to help you is to effectively communicate your message to your buyer or to the person that you are presenting to, so then you can go ahead and confidently and successfully close more deals. So step 1. And within each one of these steps, there are going to be other multiple steps in here as well that you may need to do. But step 1 here is, number 1 thing that most people fear is public speaking. Number 2 is death or something like that, right? It's pretty crazy. More people would rather die than public speak. I think this happens mostly because we're told that public speaking is fearful, that we should be fearful of it, so more people start to fear it. So it's kind of almost like that you're feeding the mentality of scarcity. So I believe that doing presentations does not need to be scary. It all comes down to practice, doing it and being prepared, and then practicing what you're going to say multiple times, potentially sometimes even in front of a mirror, or having yourself a small audience. I know a lot of people who will present to like their pets and stuff, even to fish. I know I used to do that because I used to stand in front of my fish tank and really just read or present my presentation to my fish. My fish could never say anything back to me. It was really just kind of floating around, but it gave me the confidence to go ahead and do some public speaking whenever necessary. So before you start putting your presentation together, you have to ask yourself, what is the goal of your presentation? What is the expected outcome your management team requires of you? What questions will you need to answer in the presentation? And during the presentation, what actions, emotions, and responses do you want your customer to experience? You may need to build all of these answers into the type of presentation you give. And in order to do this, you must prepare. So part of preparing comes to kind of putting together and gathering information for your presentation. You can be over prepared for a presentation, because what happens sometimes is, you prepare for a 1 hour talk and something comes up and now you can only do a 10-minute talk. That's a lot less time, but you still have to understand what is important and what can be cut out to still effectively present the information that you're looking to present. When you start putting together the presentation, you need to know who your audience is going to be. If you know who your audience is made up of, the better the talk and the presentation you can put together, and also the better words you can put together. So if you're having a conversation with a higher level, let's say the CEOs as an example, you put together a presentation that's for the CEO specifically. If you're putting a presentation together, let's say for 300 of the works or the team staff, then you're going to put together the presentation for those 300 people that make up the staff of the business, right? Each one of them may require a different type of presentation, different information, and even different words and lingo, so it's easy for them to understand. When you're preparing, most likely the presentation will most likely be at your office, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. It could be at the office of the buyer, or it could be at a third-party location such as a coffee shop or even a conference room. It's your job to, if you can, get that presentation in an environment that you can control. Once you can do that, you have a lot more success, because now you're in your comfort zone. You get to control what is the expectations of that environment. But this may not happen all the time. Once you have your audience in place and you understand, now you have figured out what your location is going to be, now it's time for you to really start gathering the necessary information to start putting everything together. Organize your ideas so they can actually start flowing logically. A presentation is definitely like a movie or a play. You control the flow of the information you want your customer or the listener to understand and absorb and learn from and take away from. If you're going to make a slideshow, I recommend you also have an IT person available to help you in case your technology or your slideshow goes down. I don't care if you're very good at computers or you really understand how to deal with the technical side of your presentation. That's wonderful, but your goal is sales and to ensure that you are getting your message across. I would recommend not focusing on that part of it, letting the IT person focus on that part of it if it's necessary, and you really focus on the goal of the presentation, which we talked about earlier. Part of step one is also knowing the outcomes that you want to create. So as you are aware that not everything can be planned for, right? You may be planning for certain things, and you may need to set up a web conference, maybe because your client can't make the meeting all of a sudden, or they got stuck in a different city and says, look, I got 15-20 minutes, I can do a Skype conversation, can we do this right now? And you have to be ready to go, right? You have to be able to prepare for all the little things that may come up that you may not be comfortable with, but you have to be comfortable with, because this is going to dictate the success of your presentation. The more prepared you are, the more familiar and comfortable you are with the material, the better you will do at being confident to present that information. I believe your goal is to answer questions of your customer. All the questions that they will ask and all the questions that they may not ask that might be holding them back from making the final purchasing decision. You want to be able to take care of all of these answers in your presentation. Your goal is really to make sure you can answer the customer's objections before they come up, right? So answer all the questions, know what your customer will say. It's kind of like what a good lawyer does. A good lawyer learns their side of the argument as well as the other side's argument as well. So how do you know the goal? You may consider working with a team on your presentation or working closely with the manager of the project to really understand what you're hoping to accomplish before you make the presentation to your customer. you may need to think about the long-term goals versus the short-term goals. I understand that sometimes we really are thinking about short-term, about the paycheck, but really think about the long-term relationships that you're looking to build during this presentation and having the companies work together. You can work for a certain company. Maybe you've had other people in your company make presentations to this company before. I would recommend even talking to those people and finding out what some of the challenges were with getting the deal or not getting the deal the last time you dealt with a company like this. You must, I know for a fact, believe in the product or service you are selling, and your belief must be in your tone, your body language, and the presentation, the message you're giving in your presentation. You only have one chance to really wow your the people that you are going to be presenting to, so it is time to make sure you understand. One of the questions that always comes up is, should you use multimedia? Now, there's definitely some good and bad reasons to use multimedia. This is something that you'll have to decide based on your style of presenting, as well as the size of audience and the type of audience that you are going to be presenting to. I think you have to really consider the length of your presentation and understand how you feel your audience will react to your different uses of multimedia, such as computers or projectors and stuff like that. You really have to understand that there are people who use different auditory senses to learn. Some people are very visual, some people are very hearing based, some people are very, audio over visual based, right? So it's really understanding maybe that a combination might work very well for you during this presentation as well. You have to consider the size of the room and decide if a microphone is needed as well, if you need to project your voice a little stronger, or if it's a smaller room that you can just talk from your voice box in your chest and really get that message out confidently to every single person out in your listening audience, right? That's something I would think you would want to consider about. Now, the next thing is, once you've considered all the factors of who you're presenting to, where you're presenting to, what type of multimedia that you may choose to use, now you can start really gathering the information on making that presentation the best presentation you could do to ensure that the customer will want to potentially do business with you and your company. Now, keep in mind, there's a lot of information out there that you want to convey to your customer, but you have to really know what is the most important information based on the goals that we discussed earlier. You have to look at what resources your company has to make this presentation. So maybe you have a sample, you can provide samples to your new customer. Absolutely, that might be a great idea, but giving them samples, you have to understand as well, can take away from the presentation, as sometimes people get focused with what's in their hand versus who's in front of them and making the presentation. So just have to understand these kind of things as well. Present the value of your product and service to the customer and their business, not the value to your business, because the customer doesn't care about your business, the customer cares about their business. Educate the buyer on how your product or service is better than any other competitor out there without being negative about the other competitors in the market. Once you have this information in your presentation, it's now time to really put everything together, put all the keywords together, really formulate that presentation on how you're going to do it. Now, you may have 20, 25 minutes to do it. You may have 10 minutes to only do it. You might have a full hour to do it. Really, depending on what you have to present or how much time you have to present, will really allow you an idea to say, this is how much time I have, so this is the amount of information, or this is the exact important information that I need to get out. The speech itself. The goal is to inform, educate, inspire, and change the mind of the buyer and cause them to take action on the message of your presentation. You must be aware that a good speech also has 3 parts. It's the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. We've probably all heard this before. Many people find it easier to prepare the body of the speech first. So that's the middle, that's the meat and potatoes, that's the things you want people to really focus on in your presentation. But keep in mind, many people will really focus on the strong opening and the very strong closing. So you can definitely talk a little bit about what your major points are at the starting and towards the end of your presentation as well, in your opening introduction and your closing conclusion. the body of the presentation, you want that listener to remember and take some important, relevant information out of that. Depending on your audience, and depending on how complex your product or service is, you do not want to develop more than 2 or 3, maybe even 4 ideas maximum in your presentation, because most of the time people can't handle that much more information coming at them at any given time. So you want to be able to give them the ability to absorb everything you're saying, and most people can only take what their butts can handle. So make sure each point is relevant to what their goal is, not what your goal is. The most effective speakers enhance their ideas by building credibility by using support materials as well. So like we talked about earlier for multimedia, you can definitely use like handouts and stuff. Just make sure your handouts are not interrupting what your message is to your customer. A lot of times people start shuffling through pieces of paper, and this can take away from your presentation. One of the things I do recommend is testimonials. Testimonials are huge. They're a great way to start your presentation. They're a great way to end your presentation if used correctly, right? It's a great way to help the buyer make a decision on what they will have if they do business with you. So step 2 in how to make a fantastic presentation and get the results you desire here is the opening. Your opening of your presentation is key. You want to capture the attention of your audience, and you want to give them a compelling reason to listen to you make that presentation. The more you know about your audience, the better the opening statement will be to grab their attention and keep them engaged during your time of the presentation. There's a lot of different ways to make a presentation great at the opening. A lot of people, they decide they want to tell a joke, or they want to tell a story, or they want to use a testimonial. Really consider your goal and understand who your audience is, and really start your opening of your presentation based on knowing that. Just make sure if you're going to tell a joke, that you're telling a tasteful joke that everybody can find tasteful, because if even one person doesn't find that joke tasteful, you can absolutely lose the deal right on the spot. It's the importance of knowing your audience. Next thing is really need to know what your goal is. So in part, step 2 is really, if you understand what your goal is, now that you have their attention because you've grabbed it, your second step is really to make that presentation. The focus is the reason you want them to listen to you speak for 10, 15, 20, maybe even an hour. Every sentence you speak should be positive and building rapport with the decision maker. At no time does this mean that you need to be kissing anybody's backside or reflecting your company negatively on them, or trying to trick them into anything. There's a lot of different techniques you can use. One of the greatest books out there is How to Win Friends and Influence People, a book by Dale Carnegie. Definitely you can learn on people skills just by reading that book and how to make great presentations, even in a speech. Step 3. So step 3 here, depending on the length of your presentation again and your audience, you have to remember that the beginning of your speech is going to be probably forgotten as you get towards the end of your speech. Now, this is something that people will always remember, is what you do to how you make them feel. So the closing of your presentation is probably the most important step. This is why a lot of people will work on the middle first, work on a strong beginning and a very strong ending or conclusion of their presentation. You need to have a strong closing that invokes a positive emotion that people want to take action on based on what you're telling them. A weak ending to a fantastic presentation can cause people to wonder, hey, why did I just sit through this whole presentation and I really don't feel like doing anything different? I feel like I've wasted my time. If that's the feeling that you give to the people who are listening to your presentation, you have failed in putting together a great presentation. What you want to do is create an emotion where the person listening to you wants to take action to what you've just said. Okay? So it is time for you to take advantage and put together, based on whatever your goals are for your speech, and put together a great conclusion. Have them ponder something. Have them take action on something. Leave them with a lasting and memorable statement that causes them to want to act and do business with you and your company, and not want to do business with your competitor. Not saying that you talk negative about them, but really give them a reason to say, you know what, this is the best company to do business with because A, B, and C. You're giving them enough reason. This is when you bring everything together. You know, your presentation and the information at the ending is going to be key. So make sure you summarize the top 2 or 3 or 4 points that you talked about in the body of your presentation. This could be the last time you talk to a potential buyer. You may not get any more chances to do business with them. So without offending them, you know, make sure you make it a memorable presentation. So if you started with a joke, maybe end with a joke. If you start with a story, maybe end with a story or a joke. Or, you know, try to mix it up and try to give the audience something effective that they can take. So use one of those techniques either at the beginning or the conclusion of your speech, so they want to do business with you. And always remember, speak with confidence. Look somebody or every single person in the eye during your conversation or presentation with them, and realize if anything happens, that's okay. Excuse yourself. You know, if you have to apologize because let's say a projector goes down, hey, no problem. These things happen. It's how you handle yourself when these things are happening. That's going to be key and why the company wants to do business with you versus somebody else. I hope you were able to get a lot of information from this video here on how to make an effective presentation or make a great sales presentation so you can get the results you desire for your sales and closing more sales. I can't tell you what kind of information to put in your presentation when you do that presentation. All I can say is you want to make sure that the information that you're conveying to your buyer is going to make sure it benefits them and not you. What I'm going to ask you to do is if you've enjoyed this video, please like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You're more than welcome to go over to discoveryourlifetoday.com where you can also subscribe to the blog. Please leave any comments or any below, anything I can help you with on making presentations below as well. I'll do my best to help you out as much as I can. And other than that, I hope you have a lot of success while you make your presentations, get a lot of business, close more sales, and I hope you have a great day.